Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be going over the Korean schedule as well as some of the news that just came out on JP. So again, just briefly touching on the JP news here, you guys can actually see Arcade got some new stuff. We've gotten more color variations for Ereshkigal, as well as some new costumes, and I gotta admit, I think this might be something that we might see at our actual collaboration with Arcade in the actual mobile game here in the middle of Golden Week. I think this is one of the things they might end up bringing in. We'll just have to wait and see, but I wouldn't be surprised because color variations is something that they've worked on, and I think it's been largely a success, largely a hit on the Arcade side of things. So it's a really easy way for them to not have to actually rework a lot of the sprites. It's a really easy way for them to give you costumes without giving you costumes. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that they did. Similarly here, we actually ended up having the return of some of the old outfits, as well as a new one here, the nurse outfit for BB, which again has caused a lot of people to be like, holy crap, why can't we get this in mobile? But again, that's how the costumes have worked in mobile for a long time. Everybody just sits there and goes, oh no, they Arcade, and says, why don't we have this? So it is what it is. And then also they got Sherlock Holmes for Arcade here coming out, as it's going to be their white day, and definitely he looks pretty interesting as well in his actual 3D form. But the big news here has been Korea revealing its next 3-month schedule. Now, yes, they did release an official graphic for this, and it's caused a lot of people to immediately go like, oh, whoa, hold on, what is that? This is something we've actually kind of known about for a while, and this goes back to all the way when they announced their next 6 months of schedule back during Korea's anniversary in November. So I'm going to talk about that here in a second, but let's quickly go over it just so you guys can see. So they're actually getting Slapstick on the exact same day that the NA server is, and they're going to have their Chaldea Boys stuff and everything alongside of it. And basically the interesting thing here isn't anything with Chaldea Boys, it's that on the 10th they are slated to actually still have the class banners. And that's really peculiar because if you guys remember, I talked about us possibly not getting the class banners on NA because of the existence of pity. So the fact that they're already showing that Korea will in fact get this is really peculiar, because we don't know how this will work, because Japan has never run a class banner since pity has been out. So something here is going to give. It's either not going to have pity on it, or it might have a different structure, a different setup. We'll just have to wait and see. That's something that we can't answer at the current moment in time. Similarly, after that, they're going to get Akihabara Explosion, just like we're supposed to. That will be their next event, and that is, again, just more par for the course. Nothing too interesting to observe about this. But from here is where it gets interesting. So already you guys can see that the next thing up on the list here is going to be the Waltz pre-campaigns, and it's certainly something that you want to pay attention to because it's not very padded. So when this sort of stuff came out on the Japanese server, a lot of these in-between campaigns were padded for long periods of time, giving us a lot of what people would like to refer to as dead time. It was not real dead time, though. There was still stuff to do, but yes, it was not new exciting events or story releases. So from there, though, they end up with actually a, I believe this is a strengthening campaign, or is it the interlude campaign? I don't remember. But essentially also the return of Kets here, and then Hunting Quest 10, and then yet again more banners here. And what's got everybody in a tizzy right here is right here at the end of March, you end up having the pre-campaign for Lostbelt 6. This is what a lot of people are reacting to. To be fair, most people are thinking this is Lostbelt 6. It's not. It's the pre-campaign. They did confirm that, but this is intriguing that it's happening so early. And you guys know I'm someone that's been a skeptic on us getting Lostbelt in March. I do not think that's going to happen, and this kind of confirms it because Korea's not getting it in March either. But April was one where I still was skeptical. I was thinking you're going to get it in May. That may still hold true, but let's take a look at this Korea schedule because it's really interesting. So again, they have the pre-campaign set up right here, but then literally 2 days later, here comes Grail Live. Now, Grail Live is a 2-week event, so this is basically going to last to April 13th, essentially, on their server. Now, that's intriguing because we've often seen already that they're squishing everything together, getting rid of any of the sort of padding that JP did. But essentially, the way it's supposed to go is it's supposed to go Grail Live in April, late April. So the fact that you're already getting it here in late March means Korea at this point is already a month ahead. So they've already managed to squish so much stuff. And this is something I talked about in my video where I said, hey, look, I thought it could come early for us because there's a lot of time that they could just kind of overlap with other things and move together. And it's not that crazy. That's a lot of what all of this is all of this is just basically just kind of piggybacking on the back end of Akihabara. So they are just moving everything into it. But again, it's certainly an interesting thing because you're not supposed to. In fact, you're supposed to have 3 weeks for the Summer 5 rerun. You're supposed to have, again, 2 weeks here basically for My Grail Front Super Camelot, right? And then even from there, only in June are you finally supposed to get the Lostbelt 6 release. But that's not how Korea's doing it. In fact, we pretty much know because they already talked about this schedule back here at their, again, anniversary in November. And largely all of this has held true. So as you guys can see here, this is where they talked about it, that they were saying Chaldea Boys, the Grail Live pre-campaign, Rank Up campaign, Hunting Quest 10, and the Lostbelt 6 pre-campaign. That is still true to form. All of that is happening in March. In fact, the only thing that's a little bit odd here is technically Grail Live is not happening in April, but technically right at the end of March. So I guess they could have squeezed it up there, but they didn't. And that's really peculiar. And let me say why. Because again, the Grail Live event is 2 weeks long. Holy Grail Front, My Super Camelot is supposed to have its own week. So at minimum, this is getting squished into Grail Live. Because then on top of that, we also have the Summer 5 rerun that is supposed to last 3 weeks. Now, I'm no mathematician here, but last I checked, most months have 4 weeks in them. So something already doesn't add up here. Because then at the end of all of this, they're also saying that they're getting LB6 Part 1 in April. So the only thing that I can think of, the only thing that I can say, and again, the official graphic only goes through March. So we're just looking at what they said back in November of last year to try and dictate this. But the only thing I can think of is that they might shrink the Summer 5 rerun to 2 weeks. It was a very long, protracted, stally rerun. The original event was 3 weeks long. The rerun was also 3 weeks long. So the weird part about this is, while yes, they probably can squish it, they never had. On JP, they never did it, and in either run of the event. So it's an interesting concept here. And then if they can do that, if they can overlap the Grail Front with Grail Live and run Summer 5 rerun for 2 weeks, then yes, at the end of April, right at the end, they can fit in LB6 Part 1. But what I'm thinking is either this isn't going to work out like they planned, or they are doing the crunch, and we'll just have to wait and see. But if they're not actually crunching Summer 5, the only other way is they just overlap everything, and that's just really weird. But again, there's nothing that says in the later weeks of Summer 5 rerun that they can't run story. That's certainly possible. So I do think that's a thing. But it is interesting because it almost seems like Korea's in this huge rush, and they don't really need to be. In fact, the whole reason there was so much padding on JP is because there just wasn't anything else that they could do. They were stalling things out because they were working on LB6 at the time. The whole reason that NA has a schedule shift, and the whole reason that we kind of get in a hurry in the early part of the year, is because our anniversary occurs earlier than JP's did. And the whole reason that we then need to rush things a little bit ahead of that is because they made a promise long ago to never mess with any of our GSSRs ever again. So they have to keep everything that should have been out before the GSSR in terms of new units ahead of our anniversary. So since our anniversary occurs about 3 weeks, typically it's supposed to be an entire month ahead, but we celebrated about 3 weeks ahead of where JP celebrated it. Oftentimes that causes a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a forward crunch in order to try and make all of this possible. So it's really, really interesting. But you can see it doesn't really stop there. They have Interlude Campaign 16, Nero Fest, and LB6 Part 2 in May. And then they also have a Family Month Celebration campaign and Rank Up Campaign 14 there. To top it all off, in June here, they end up with LB6 Part 3 Finale, Hunting Quest 11, and the Summer 6 pre-campaign. This is crazy, because Summer 6 didn't even come out until September on the Japanese server. So I don't really understand why they're in such a rush, but it's very interesting to me, to say the least. I think the really awesome part about this is, if anything like this were to happen on NA, you would have LB6 Part 3 done and farmable before your anniversary at that point, because our anniversary, chat, is July. Okay, it's going to be the first week of July, probably July 1st, July 2nd. So that would mean you would already have all of that done. Oberon would be out, and all of that would be really crazy. The scary part is if they move all of this up, this means that Nerofest is preserved as it was on JP, and it technically doesn't need to be. This is actually a really easy event that they could shift later. The reason that it's scary if they preserve this for Nerofest is because that means you don't have Koyanskaya available. JP didn't have Koyanskaya available for Nerofest. NA was looking like it was going to have Koyanskaya available since ours happened a month before. It looked like a really easy thing for them to do would be to shift Nerofest back a little bit and to make this possible. And that might still happen. Again, Korea is weird. We're probably not going to be the exact same as them. But this is a very intriguing thing to entertain. It's a really curious thing to see just how forward they're crunching everything. Korea's anniversary isn't until November, so that often causes them to have some issues. But it's really weird to me that they're already taking stuff from September and throwing it in June. At that point in time, Korea is 4 months ahead, basically. That is insane. That is just absolutely nutty to me that they are that far ahead. So that's a really, really crazy thing. And I'm sure there's going to be some people who are going to be like, oh, well, Cad, where did they say all of this? And they did back during their anniversary in November. They announced all of this stuff back then. And so we've been keeping our eye on it for a long time. So again, that's one of the things I wanted to show you, just to show you that, yes, this is an actual legitimate list. This has matched what they've done, and this is matching what they're saying they're going to do for the next 3 months. So I think this is really, really an intriguing thing to entertain. But again, we'll have to see. We'll have to keep watch. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys would be excited for if NA were to follow this, or let me know if you don't want to see NA follow this. I'll be happy to hear from you. We'll see you guys for the next video. Have a good one.